However, now I would like to ask also Professor Krzysztof Szwagrzyk, who is also here and who has done great things in terms of reminding the Poles what happened after the war. What was the Second Underground? In April, the remains of Major Łupaszka, Major Zygmunt Szędzielarz, will be laid to rest. However, the work of Professor Szwagrzyk enabled us to identify the remains of a large group of the forgotten soldiers, of the heroes of the Second Underground. The professor has received so many awards and prizes that they are just too long to list here. But I have to say that for me, the most important award is the Lech Kaczyński Award, President Lech Kaczyński Award, of which he is also the laureate. So, Professor, you have the floor. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I was wondering which word to actually use when talking about the heroes of today's conference. We call them the cursed soldiers, the unbroken soldiers, the forgotten soldiers, the participants of the anti-communist uprising. Some of them call them the last knights of the Polish Republic. We're talking about the people who in the 1940s and 50s fought a fight that they couldn't have won, and most of them paid the highest price for it. So I would like to start my meeting with you with this photograph. 5 men in uniforms. This is the Vilnius Brigade. And why is it so special? We are seeing soldiers in Polish uniforms in this picture. This is clearly not what the communists proclaimed in the propaganda. These were people who felt they were soldiers of the Polish military, of the Polish army. So the 5 persons you see in this picture, out of them 4 paid with their lives. Only 1 survived. 3 were sentenced to death and executed in prisons in Poland. 1 survived and 1 died fighting. And now we are looking for the remains of our heroes. And another troop, 1949, so several years after the war, the troop of Captain Dziwiszkiewicz, we will have a movie coming up in Poland about this troop, which has been expected for a while now by the Polish public. Well, the communists did quite a lot to try and catch the people whom they considered their enemies. So many people in Poland don't know that there were actually bulletins sent out after the people who were hiding in the forests. This is reward is being promised, 20,000 zlotys, for people who will help find this person. And they also did a lot to convince the Poles that they, the communists, are the legal authorities and that the other ones are actually bandits, that are criminals. This is an actual picture taken in 1947 in Krakow. This is a communist court that tries to convince the public that they are the legal authority, is actually giving its judgment under the sign of the cross, which they had nothing in common with, because they were trying to take this authority and make the other ones the bandits. And we're not only talking about people being shot, people were actually also hanged on the gallows. Many people don't know that in 1946, in towns like Lębica or Sanok, in the middle of the marketplaces, gallows were set up where Polish guerrillas were being hanged like common criminals. And anybody who wanted could actually come to the marketplace and see the bad people who didn't want to accept the new communist authorities. A lot was done to document the bodies of the killed. This is a picture from 1949. Guerrilla fighters from one of the troops. Look at the effort put into document our fallen heroes. This is one of the patrol troops of Dziewiszkiewicz. 1949. You see that the uniforms are bloodied and dirty, but these are still Polish army uniforms. So the person designated as the #1 most wanted person in communist Poland still had a metal sign with the Madonna, with the Black Madonna on his chest. This is 1953, July 1953. This is that sort of a picture that they were taking even in 1953, because that was our history. This picture is not a mistake. I chose it on purpose to show that during the time where the last troops of the Polish underground were being killed in Poland, the movie Men Prefer Blondes opened in the US. We're talking about the same year, about the same time. So we have to comprehend the difference between what was going on in the west of Europe and what was going on in Poland. Without understanding it, you cannot understand the Polish sensitivity, because we cannot find our heroes. We are going back to this issue because we want to publicize this history. You are trying to clear it up now. It is also only now that we are undertaking certain actions that should have taken place ages ago. This is quite a drastic photograph. This is the last guerrilla, the last partisan. This is the father of Mr. Franczak, who is at our table. When he was killed by the communists in 1963, the prosecutors decided that the head has to be separated from the body. So the family actually received the remains, the body, but not the head. The head was actually found 2 years ago in one of the anatomy labs in Poland. It is only then that we were able to actually ceremonially bury our hero. Those awaiting execution in Poland were aware that their bodies would not be handed out to their families, because the communists thought that anybody who was against them belonged to the party, to the state, but not to the family. So they were being deprived of the basic information of the burial site of their relatives. So this is one of the ones sentenced to death and then executed. And in the prison cell, he requested his cellmate, "Remember, when they take me to be killed, I will take my Madonna medallion in my mouth, and this is how you will know that it's me, the medallion." And it was not just him who tried to leave a mark, to be recognized. So today I will speak a little bit about our search on the based on the example of the so-called meadow. This is the L quarter in one of the graveyards in Warsaw, 25 by 35 meters. And right now we have a small square there, 17 by 17 meters. This is what remains of the meadow, or what has remained of the meadow until recently. Why? Because it was actually the dumpster, the graveyard dumpster that was in this corner. So this is a place of the burial of 300 people in the 50s, 300 of our heroes, including General Fieldorf, or Commander Pilecki, Lieutenant Łupaszko. All of them were killed there, and they were not included in any cemetery documentation. There are no records of their burial sites. then the communists decided to put a lot of soil on top of the meadow, so much that nobody is even willing to try and dig there. So they actually added 2 meters of soil. And there were no records of the burials. The whole quarter of the cemetery was actually covered in soil. One would think it's impossible. Luckily, every murderer leaves some traces behind, so the communists left traces as well. What they didn't know was that they would actually document the traces of their murders. Aerial photography. This one was taken in the mid-50s by the communists. What do we see? This bright spot in the upper corner is the soil and sand being actually put on the meadow. On the left-hand side, we see a few dark vertical lines and one horizontal line. These are the prison burials from the years 48 to 56. But then, in the 1980s, the communists did something very special. They assumed that the meadow was a very good site to bury people who had great achievements for the communist system. So, on the same spot where they buried 300 people, they now buried 160 people. Not just executioners, not just henches, but one of the symbols of the people who were buried there in the 1980s is a judge, Roman Krzyżtof, a judge who gave 80 death sentences that were actually executed. We don't know who's buried underneath him, but probably one of his victims. So these are our exhumations work that took place in 2 stages, in 2012 and 2013. And we were able to find the remains of 201 persons killed in the 1940s and 1950s. We keep finding the remains of our heroes that were just thrown into pits. We're not talking about burials, we're not talking about graves, we're talking about the actions of a murderer who tries to cover up his crime and cover up the body. We see remains with bullet holes in their skulls, because this was the cut-in, the Soviet way of killing people. So a shot to the back of the head from close range. So we are finding remains whose hands are still tied. We are finding remains that are intertwined with the roots of the trees that used to grow on the meadow up until recently. We are finding individual pits, mass graves. These people were usually buried without any clothing. We hardly find any remains of clothing. We see tied hands. You can see it by the way the remains are positioned.
Szanowni Państwo, któregoś dnia w tym miejscu, gdzie wydawało nam się, że już nic nas nie zaskoczy, odnaleźliśmy szczątki w pewnym dole 8 mężczyzn. Widzimy to na tym zdjęciu.
So we are seeing a pit where we found the remains of 7 to 8 people.
Mamy do czynienia z żołnierzami niemieckimi, bowiem
we know that these are not German soldiers because these are German soldiers because we found actually Wehrmacht uniforms on them. But when we did DNA tests, it turned out that these are soldiers of the home country. That this is Major Zapora and his troop. So now we are certain that we have identified 7 out of the 8 remains that we found there. And we're still working on identifying the last person.
Tutaj czerwonym kolorem. Odnaleźliśmy
Now, in the place marked in red, we've found mortal remains of Major Łupaszka. This road was actually used for general traffic. Major Łupaszka, and this is another evidence supporting the assumption that what we're doing is not only of scientific nature. As in Poland, some dozens of thousands of people are still awaiting information on what has become as the fate of their closed ones. This is one of the examples. Henryk Borowski, who actually fought under Major Łupaszko. That was actually 2 years ago, what you're actually seeing in this picture. We managed to find the right spot, the place where the mortal remains of your husband had been buried. This is actually the fiancée of Major Łupaszka. She's holding a document testifying the actual place where he was buried. Now we're looking at the death pits, and they actually are under the burial sites from 1980s. That actually means, ladies and gentlemen, that a technique must be worked out in order to enable us to actually access those burial sites. We must make sure that this technique is available, and we must make sure that we deliver on the commitments that we made. That is to find those heroes and give them a decent burial.
Ja już słyszałam kilka.
Now, I've heard this time and time again in Polish Parliament, also when you delivered your speech, when you received your prize. This story about the amazing work which is now afoot in this Warsaw cemetery. I see it as an obligation on all of us here to make sure that this work is carried out without any major disruption. Finally, may I give the floor to Mr. Frączak.